Welcome to the Marquis Masters podcast. I'm your host, Beth Mund, and today I am very excited to introduce you to Carl Adams. He's the former Managing Executive Officer, Deputy Head of the Americas Division for Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation, and is now a consultant for Business Talent Group. His passion was travel, languages, and soaking up different cultures. So how did that lead to building powerhouse business platforms across multiple global financial institutions over a 40-year career? Today, you'll learn how passion plus curiosity can lead to an extraordinary career and why being a solutions provider beats being a product pusher every time, and what it really takes to walk away from a 40-year legacy on your own terms. If you're a business leader, career changer, or someone chasing purpose, this one is for you. Head over to marquiswhoswho.com, where the world's most accomplished professionals get the recognition they've earned. It's the ultimate VIP list you'll want to bookmark. And if today's episode inspired you, leave us a review. It'll be the best return on investment you'll make all day. Welcome, Carl, to the show. So nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you too, but thank you.
You bet. Well, we cannot wait to hear all about your accolades and your successful career and your love of music. So let's start, though, first with banking. How did you get into it and how did it get started for you?
You know, it's an interesting question because the truth is, if I look at my background, I never had any interest in banking. My focus was 100% on traveling, learning different cultures, speaking different languages. And my major was, I did do political science, but it was international relations, foreign languages. And what got me into banking, which is a really interesting story, is during my junior year abroad in Spain, I spent my junior year in Spain. I met so many people around the country and around the world that were in this program together. And we all had similar interests, it was such a great experience. And at the very end of the junior year, we were all at a bar getting together to, celebrate the year. And somebody asked a very interesting question. So, Chris, what are you going to do in your career going forward? And we were all like, oh my God, I have no idea what my career is going to be like. I just love traveling, different cultures. What am I going to do? So we just started having these brainstorming discussions. And this one woman comes up with this comment. She said, has anybody ever heard of this university called Thunderbird? And I never heard of it. And she said, well, it's interesting because it's an international MBA program. And it's more than 40% of the students are global students from around the world. And in order to get your degree, Master's in International Business Administration, right, MIBA, you need to master a language, master a region of the world, and then major in either marketing or finance.
Oh, wow.
And that just resonated with me so much because it integrated with my interests,
Yeah.
And the only thing is I was like, finance I know nothing about. Marketing I have no interest in. I'm not a marketing kind of guy, So I went back to my university, St. John Fisher University, and I started taking finance, like accounting, statistics, and I realized I really like finance. I like numbers. I like math, surprised me. So I took it, after I graduated, I took a year. I worked with my parents. They were entrepreneurs. So I worked with them in one of their businesses for a year, and I went to a university close to my house, and I took all basic finance courses. And then the next year I went to Thunderbird, and it was the most amazing experience, And I was able to get a job within like a few months after I graduated in a company called Manufacturers Hanover Trust, which was one of the, it was Manufacturers Hanover, Chemical Bank, Chase, JP Morgan. They all merged together over the last 40 years. But I started at MH and went all the way through to Chase.
I see.
And my career was, I was an integrated career with international banking, and I really loved it. Yeah.
Wow. That's fantastic. You mentioned your parents being a pivotal part of how you got started. Were they encouraging your travel as well?
What was great about my parents is I'm one of 7 children. think about that. We were a big family, Italian-American, parents grew up in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. My grandparents owned restaurants. My mom was an amazing chef, but they were, we were very disciplined, but they also gave us the freedom to be who we wanted to be. And so I was the one, I was a standout. I loved, my other siblings were different. I loved traveling. I loved the languages, and they just totally supported it and reinforced it, which was great.
Fantastic.
Their message always was, at your young age, do what you're really passionate about, and that'll evolve into a career at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what happened for me. Yeah.
Wow. Great. Thanks,
Yeah.
Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
And they let you go to Spain instead of Italy, huh?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And that was a little bit of a crush, because at some point I was like, I really love Spain. And my mom would be like, but come on, Italy is much.
Sure. That's fantastic. Okay, so as you started your career and after your degrees, what was it that was either a challenge or one of the projects you're most proud of?
Yeah. I think that I have answers to both those questions. Challenges have been, early on in my career, the challenge was I had no background in banking at all, in international banking and in investment banking, nothing. And so many of my colleagues, when we were analysts, they all had their second, third generation bankers. And so that was a challenge in the beginning, because I felt like I didn't fit in. And again, my parents were great, amazing. My father said to me at the time, son, stop focusing, stop comparing yourself to others. Put your head down and do your job. Just focus on doing your job. And it took the weight of the world off, the pressure off of my shoulders. And then literally within 6 months, my boss promoted me. You know what I mean? So that was a game changer for me. And now the parts of my career that have been the most rewarding and I've been most proud of is I was able to, once I moved on from Chase, it was a great experience at Chase, by the way. But once I moved on, I had the opportunity to build out business platforms from scratch. And, the very first one I did was so successful that every time I moved on to a different institution, it was to give me the opportunity to build out a platform. So that's been the most rewarding and the thing I'm most proud of, is being able to build out an amazing team that's, collaborative, integrative, and not only provides real value to the institution, but also brings value back to our clients. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. Fantastic.
So when you're in the structured finance space, it's a little bit different. So that the investment banking, structured finance sits there. I've been in that my whole life, but a lot of the products are commoditized products. They're valuable to your clients, but they're commoditized. And, it's a lot of my clients have did this to me years over years, from the time I lived in São Paulo to the time, to just this summer. They're saying, as much as we have great relationships with financial institutions, the difference between you and your team is that, you're not just product pushers, you are solutions providers. You're value-added solutions providers, and you have an agnostic approach to the business. So that's really been the honor for me in my whole career. And to be able to do this multiple times, but institution after institution. Yeah. Yes.
Carl, you had mentioned one person in particular who guided you and gave you that extended invitation for something after school and after your degree was earned. Are there other mentors that helped you along your way?
Oh, yes. It's been, I have to say that my family have been great mentors, but my bosses, most of my bosses really, it's interesting because they, I was, shockingly enough, people don't believe this. My colleagues say they don't believe this, but I was a fairly shy person at a young age, and I was able to build confidence and, really make an impact because my bosses supported me and reinforced me. So I had to say, almost any one of my career, the institutions that I work with, I have to give credit to my CEOs or to my heads of businesses.
Have you ever wondered how some people's stories live on, not just through their work, but through history itself? For nearly 130 years, Marquis Who's Who has been documenting the lives of leaders, innovators, and changemakers across every profession. From CEOs and scientists to artists and educators, Marquis has captured the stories behind success, the people who define our times. Being listed in Marquis Who's Who isn't just recognition, it's taking control of your personal brand and using it to create a meaningful and impactful legacy. It's a record of your life's work, preserved, published, and accessible to generations who will study, research, and be inspired by your contribution. If you've built something meaningful and you've made an impact in your field or community, this is how you ensure your story is told and your personal brand is maintained accurately with integrity. Visit marquiswho'swho.com to learn more about how you or someone you admire can be featured, because history remembers those who take the time to record it.
I can't imagine being so far away from home and being shy. I bet you were so grateful to have a great boss that was able to help guide you and get you established in a foreign country or in a new job. That's quite a bit to take on.
It really was. And I can tell you something that really still stands out in my mind. That, as you move on in your career, you realize, you learn, you may enjoy the moment that you're in, and I do enjoy the moment, but you become retrospective when you move on, because when challenges happen in the future with other things, you realize that, the even more value that you had from before. So at Chase, for example, so many institutions have challenges with the coverage teams and the product teams working together, like integrate in an integrated way. I was so fortunate. I grew up with that integration because Chase, Chemical Bank and Chase Bank, I was there through all the mergers. The coverage teams and the product teams were one. We supported each other. When they sent me down to Brazil, to São Paulo, to build out structured finance, think about that. I was a young person, I was early 30s. I was excited and scared at the same time. I literally, before I proposed to my wife, I said, "Are you willing to move overseas?" And she said yes. And then,
good answer.
Then we got married, and then we moved overseas. We moved to Brazil. But
wow.
But the coverage team, they were just such supports to me. They were just around me constantly, putting me upon the clients, working with me together. And in my career after that, even though I had great experiences, a lot of the smaller banks don't really have as much of that integration between product and coverage. You know what I mean? So that was like, in retrospect, I was really appreciative of Chase.
Fantastic. Carl, you had to travel quite a bit for work. Did you also get to enjoy that as a hobby as well?
Oh, yes. Yeah, it was so much fun because, over years, covering, even though the last 20 years of my career, I'd covered all of the Americas, but for the first half of my career, it was only Latin America. So traveling to Latin America and also traveling to Europe to visit clients that are active in Latin America, it was such an amazing experience because I'd created so many friends, through clients and through colleagues, so many friends over the years. So we're going there, we're meeting with our families together, we're having barbecues together, we're going out to dinner together, or we're doing weekend trips. So my career and my personal life have integrated. And this is another reason why I'm so appreciative of being part of a Latin American, having that be major part of my career, because Latins are, they're amazing clients because they're dealing with volatility on a regular basis. So the CEOs in Latin America are just at a different level. I find them to be they're just on top of things, right? But at the same time, they're much more open people, much more, you create really close relationships with them. To this day, these are my closest friends, my clients, and my colleagues over the last 40 years. We're still together. We're looking at opportunities to stay together. It's great.
Fantastic. Carl, I see the guitar behind you. Do you play?
Yes, I do. I started playing when I was about 8. And then, but for the last 20 years, for me, even longer, I haven't really played that much. But this past year, I got a new teacher, and I've been playing now pretty regularly.
What kind of music do you play?
I'm big into acoustic,
Nice.
That the music that, like the, Jackson Browne, Dan Fogelberg, but fairly versatile now, but all acoustic music that has amazing lyrics. You know what I mean? That's my big focus. Yeah. So I'm doing, I'm learning all the different positions. I'm pretty advanced when it comes to, because I studied music theory for many years too. So I understand music, but I had this great teacher who's who's just bringing me to a different level. So it's exciting. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Good. Good. And you're a teacher as well. At least as I read in your bio, you help mentor people who want to share a coffee with you as well and pick your brain. And you're open to doing that, which is fantastic. Has that been enjoyable for you too?
That's been the most rewarding thing, I have to say. It's interesting because at one point in my career, and this was like back in the early 2000s, my boss said to me, you need to move on to be more like, just manage instead. Even though you have this great team and they're all working together with you, you need to be less involved in the deals. And I got really nervous about that because I loved working with the clients and stuff. And it was a real challenge for me to do that. But I think that, I fought with him for a year, actually. But then I finally did it. And it was transformational because what I realized is, even though I did build that team, but I was the deal guy in the beginning, I did build a team. Being able to bring teams together, build them, grow them, empower them, also challenge them, and be real and open has been like transformation. You know what I mean? So I was so fortunate because, I've been able to build out, because of my success in building out platforms, starting with Westdeutsche Landesbank back in 1999 was when I started, the first time I ever built a platform. Every job I had after that, it was a job to build a platform from scratch. And it's been such a rewarding experience,
Well, I'm sure they appreciate your time. There's a lot to be learned from you, and it's very gracious that you give it.
Yeah, I love it. And the teams, I've learned so much from my teams. This is another thing that I think it's interesting. If I'm talking too much, please tell me.
No,
But,
not at all. As a matter of fact, no, there's more to come here because it's time for our lightning round questions. Are you ready?
Okay, good.
All
I'm ready.
right,
Yeah.
there's just a few here. Here we go. If there were one person that you could meet today, who would it be and why?
It's interesting. There are multiple people that I want to continue to meet today. But if I had to narrow it down to one, I will talk about my old boss from Westdeutsche Landesbank. His name is Manfred Knoll. And Mr. Knoll was an amazing leader. He was brought to West LB from Deutsche Bank because he was running all the products of Deutsche Bank, and Deutsche Bank wanted him to move back to Germany to run the global business. And he's like, no, I want to stay in America. So West LB hired him to build out the product business, mostly structured project finance. So he hired me to be like, I was at Santander, he hired me to be a product specialist in the project and structured finance space, right? And the transformation there was like I was sitting within that group, and I started just doing deals. I found them to be, not quite as, it was a different mindset than I was in, but I started doing deals, and then within just a few months, he restructured and he gave me the whole Latin America business.
Wow.
And he gave me he was the guy that gave me great guidance, great support, and also acknowledged my accomplishments that I wasn't used to getting. And he gave me this business, and within a short period of time, I was able to build out a structured finance structured finance platform that became number one in the market, within a fairly short period of time. And because of him, I was able to replicate that multiple times, So he's somebody that I really look up to. I haven't seen him since probably the early 2000s. He left the bank and he went to real estate, and he's living, in a different state right now. But he was an amazing mentor, and he transformed he gave me the confidence that I talked about earlier to move on and be successful here.
Wonderful. If you could start all over again, would you still go into banking?
Absolutely. The thing is, I learned banking, you know, over time. And there are many aspects of banking that don't really fit my profile, but, what I love is providing structured solutions, value-added, solutions to our clients. You know what I mean? I just don't want to make money and push. So I, to the extent that, I can do those type of value-added um, products or provide value-added solutions to clients, I'm 100% in. So it could be banking, it could be working in a corporation.
Throughout the course of your career, Carl, you've learned so much, you've accomplished so much. If there were one thing that you could share with those listening or those looking to perhaps get into banking or music or any part of your distinguished career and personal life, what advice would you give and share?
Well, I think the thing that's been the most rewarding to me is, I was able to, be myself, which is I'm a fairly direct person, and there's been challenges around that. But what I've learned throughout my career and what's been the most rewarding thing is thinking beyond yourself, thinking about how you can contribute to the greater good, whether it's for your institution, for your clients. And that's because of that mindset that I have, I've been able to build out these amazing teams that stand out with our clients and stand out in the market. So that's the key thing. And an example of that, I did that with specific structured like securitization, project finance, asset-based lending, asset management. I've done that. But the last 6 years at SMBC, when they did a transformation of the business, they created deputy CEOs, and they made me one of the deputy CEOs to run all the products. So I was in the structured finance business, right? And they put all the other products under me. And the idea there was, even though the products were all working well, but products were very siloed. And so the bank's objective was, our CEO at the time, we get is somebody I like to see all the time. He's a good friend of mine. His name is Kawabata-san. He's in Tokyo now. We're like this. He was an amazing support for me.
Nice.
His idea was, let's integrate the products together. Let's have a much more agnostic view and think more about how we provide solutions value to our clients and how we grow the business more effectively. And so think about how challenging that is when you have all these business leaders now all of a sudden under you. You were equal, they're under you, and they know the business much better than I do. I only know the structured finance and project finance, right? But, I was able to get them to open up and be more collaborative and be huge supports to them. But also to be very direct with them when they need to change things. And that sense of openness, honesty, directness, and shifting mindset over time just integrated into everybody. So it was just amazing. That's it's been such a rewarding experience for me in my career, because it's been much more about engaging people, integrating, being more collaborative, and it's really been successful. So my team, I left the bank in November. I'm still in direct contact. My teams are calling me constantly. I'm having a lunch with them, dinner with them. We're looking at different opportunities. It's just amazing. My colleagues from 40 years ago are still my best friends today.
Oh, I'm sure they are calling you. I'm sure.
It's fun.
Carl, how do you give back to your community when your community is worldwide?
It's interesting that you say that. Again, I'm very much into charities, but I am because, again, I'm going back to my parents. My parents are huge charity providers, right? Contributors. And my dad actually started a family foundation many, many years ago. And he was so, when I was a little kid, I was so interested in the Bowery mission. I was always throwing, $5, I was putting it to them, and so, so he was like, so again, I didn't even think about it like myself, but he would be reinforcing in my mom, how, but anyway, so they created it. And my dad was one of the biggest contributors to the Covenant House, for example. But he had this one. So he passed that on to my sister. She's been running his foundation for many years now. And we were all very much involved. So, so not only do I do that, but I have I have property in Costa Rica. So there's Friends of Nosara, Friends of Costa Rica. I'm involved with that charity. My doctor is this amazing man. It's called Maventy. He has his foundation for young children, and I help him with that. You know what I mean? So I'm very much, our family is very much engaged in charitable contributions. Yeah.
Your international family.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. Carl, you've shared so much with us today. Tell us a little bit about what you do in your day-to-day activities.
Sure. Yeah, so it's interesting. I have to say that walking away from your full-time 40-year career where you have a 40-year routine and you love what you do, it's quite devastating. So it was. The decision was the right decision in retrospect, but it was really tough to walk away from that, right? So the first month was a real challenge.
Sure.
But I literally was getting approached by so many different recruiters and other clients about opportunities. And what was really good was I was getting advice from my mentors. Like one of my mentors is our chairman of the board at SMBC, Reuben Jeffrey. He's an amazing man. It's like, give yourself time. Really think about, I know you're going to want to do impactful things. You want to have a purpose, and all of that, but prioritize all the other things in your life too, And so that was something objectively that made sense, but emotionally wasn't really integrating in me because I was just freaked out about it. Transition is not easy, right? But after about a month, so this one company reached out to me. They're called Business Talent Group. And, they explained that it's an interesting company. They're a company owned by Heidrick & Struggles, which is a great recruiting firm. And Elizabeth Bartoloni, who was a partner there, so one that recommended they reach out to me. And they support corporations around the globe. And they have all these projects that come in. And so what they do is you can apply, they hire consultants, and I get to look at all these projects and decide which ones I want to do, what they can reach out to me. So I joined in December, and it's been an interesting process. I haven't done a specific project yet, but I'm being very focused on what I want to do, which is emerging markets, structured solutions, helping to build out teams, mentoring. Those are the types of things that I really have a passion for. So that's one thing. That has been transformative. That's helped me quite a bit. Getting re-engaged in my own, things I enjoy, like guitar. I talked about. I love biking. I love hiking. I love, rowing, sculling. And I cook too. I come from a cook family. So I'm doing all those things.
Nice.
But I'm also working with colleagues that have moved on into entrepreneurial roles over the years, and they want us to connect and do stuff together. So I have projects that I'm working on as well. And so it's kind of been interesting. I feel much, and I'm actually also very much involved in international real estate. I have properties in Brazil and in Costa Rica and around the United States. So, these are kind of I have multiple things that I'm doing right now, but I still haven't created, right? I'm still working on creating my routine. You know what I mean?
A new routine, new one.
I'm working on that. It's still now a work in progress. Yeah.
Filled with music and good food.
You're totally right. But I want to make a purpose. You know what I mean? I want to, I've had such an amazing career. I really felt like I had a purpose in life, and so I want to, I have another friend who's a coach, and she's offering me a mentorship role as well. So these are the things that I really want to do, so.
Well, I think you'd make a fantastic coach. Carl, thank you so much for sharing your career with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Beth. It was really a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you so much for joining us today and hearing all about Carl and his accomplishments. Please check out marquiswhoswho.com for more and leave us a review. We'll see you right back here next time.